In this pod slice summary of the Club Random podcast, host Bill Maher and guest Kenny G dig into a variety of engaging topics, from strange alcohol rules to peculiarities in the music industry to Kenny G's beginnings as a musician. The conversation kicks off with popular alcohol customs, particularly the saying, liquor before beer, all clear, beer before liquor, quicker to sicker. Both Maher and Kenny get into a playful debate on their drinking preferences, with Maher stating that hard liquor should precede wine, according to some experts. Their discussion transitions into dissecting the notion that wine is healthier, agreeing that, essentially, it's all sugar and yeast. Kenny G reveals his excitement about being invited to the show, having closely followed Maher's career, and brings up an interesting inquiry about Maher's routine during performing days. This incites a comedic exchange around their differing work and travel schedules, with Maher admitting he's quite the baby when it comes to touring. Both host and guest later delve into their experiences playing the same venues and the dynamics of working in show business, with a particular focus on the music industry. Kenny G shares his humble dynamics with his band, who he has been with for over 35 years. He emphasizes that although he's the star, he still views himself as one of the guys. This segues into a discussion about the dynamics of famous bands like Metallica and the Eagles, and how, unlike Kenny G's, they are not democratic and often involve power struggles. Notably, Kenny G recounts his early career, starting with his stint as a high school saxophone soloist for Barry White in Seattle. This was pivotal for him, given that it was his first professional gig and changed his social status at his racially diverse high school, earning him newfound respect. Throughout the podcast, both Maher and Kenny G, in an unhurried and engaging pace, delve deep into each other's careers, sharing enlightening and amusing anecdotes from their professional journeys. In this segment of the podcast, Kenny G discusses his high school experiences, particularly being a young white student at a racially diverse institution. He talks about how he navigated difficult situations with racial dimensions, but never felt embittered by them, instead focusing on perfecting his saxophone skills and achieving academic excellence. When queried about less admirable actions in his life, the musician coyly denies any significant wrongdoings before revealing one of his biggest regrets, declining the opportunity to play the sax solo on Luther Vandross and Mariah Carey's song, Endless Love. His reason for passing on the opportunity dives into the complexities of adding his talent to an already crowded and powerful arrangement, giving insight into the delicacy of balancing musical elements in a composition. He later mentions that he learns from this experience, highlighting his meticulous preparation for a collaboration with The Weeknd, demonstrating his commitment to always deliver a perfect performance. Intriguingly, they delve into an unexpected direction, touching upon woke culture and its impact on entertainment, particularly movies. Maher attests to being entertained while also appreciating depth. They both agree on the joy of entertainment and the presumption of virtue signaling rampant in today's movie culture, reflecting on the Oscars and the self-glorifying instances. The musical discourse circles back to Kenny G's famed track, Going Home, universally recognized in China to signal the end of a workday, fostering a mass exodus as soon as it's played. The tale is a testament to the emotive power of Kenny G's saxophone that transcends language barriers and causes seemingly Pavlovian responses. The humorous anecdote of his Chinese audience exiting midway through his set upon hearing the song drives home the track's influence. Finally, the hosts take a pause for a commercial break from their sponsor, after which the discussion on diverse themes and insightful experiences continues. The diverse subjects brought together through Maher and Kenny G's riveting conversation offer remarkable tales and opinions, leaving their listeners eagerly waiting for the forthcoming insights. Expanding upon earlier discussions, Kenny G and Maher now delve into an amusing exchange about fashion, with Ron's commuter collection being credited as the ideal attire for men who have difficulty picking out their outfits. Kenny G highlights the comfort, flexibility, and wrinkle-resistant features of this fashion line. They mention Factor meals, ideal for fast-paced lifestyles, offering chef-prepared healthy meals delivered straight to your doorstep. Maher then steers the conversation towards travel, and it's revealed that despite Kenny G's global fame, he has never visited Japan. The reasoning centers around Maher's ingrained habits and comfort in his ways, even going so far as to admit that he dislikes traveling. During this amusing back and forth, the pair also expressed their shared admiration for the film Lost in Translation. The Park Hyatt in Japan, known in the local tongue as Pa Hai, is then discussed with both autobiographical storytellers marveling at its meticulousness, exceptional service, lighting, and bar lounge. Converts to the modern comforts of Japanese toilets, Kenny G shares a humorous anecdote about his first encounter with the high-tech device. A memorable encounter between Kenny G and Stevie Wonder, in which the iconic Stevie Wonder performed a spontaneous duet with Kenny G at a gig, is recalled, spotlighting the warm-hearted harmonica exchange between the two musicians. Kenny G gives his thoughts on why he admires Maher, stressing that both he and his comedian friends, like Ray Romano and George Lopez, have the ability to have real conversations while also inserting humor organically without forcing it. This leads into a discourse about naturalistic style in comedy and the importance of not forcing jests but being opportunistic instead. The podcast ends with an unlikely promise. Kenny G offers to personally install a Japanese toilet for Maher, referencing his family's plumbing history. Whether or not this ever happens remains undisclosed, but the friendly development cements the rapport between Maher and G. All in all, the conversation presented an exciting blend of humor, insightful stories, life reflections, and unexpected discoveries about fashion, food, travel, music, comedy, and even toilets. Throughout the ongoing conversation between Kenny G and Bill Maher, the duo create an easy-to-follow dialogue interspersed with comedic exchanges. First, they draw attention to the area of religion, with Maher curious about Kenny G's spiritual beliefs. Kenny G clarifies that he is not religious, recounting his experience at Hebrew High School and expressing that he found the experience off-putting. He admits he can read Hebrew but does not understand the meaning. In an unexpected shift, their conversation then moves on to Kenny G's rigorous practice regime. He reveals that he practiced the saxophone for 3 hours every morning in a music school in Manhattan Beach. Combating Maher's surprise, he elaborates further, saying that these regular practice sessions, particularly on scales, help to keep his technique sharp. Next, Kenny G shares his joy about finishing his latest album and believes it's his 24th, a clear illustration of his love for music and commitment to his craft. He paints a picture of the meticulousness effort it takes to put together an album and shares his adaptability to the changing music technology. As the talk continues, they delve into the topic of Cameo, a platform which lets the public connect with their favorite personalities. Kenny G is on this platform and adores the personal touch it provides. He likens it to how he connects with his fans through music, humorous and intimate. Maher tries to draw parallels with his sports practice, creating a lighthearted moment. Amidst their lively banter, Kenny G takes a moment to talk proudly about his two kids. His older son is a passionate heavy metal guitarist, and he recounts how he encouraged him to learn the mechanics of the music than just to strum a few songs. Echoing a proud, fatherly tone, he expresses his admiration for how his kids have grown and how he tried to guide them without imposing strict rules. Raising topics like the representation of kids in literature like Lord of the Flies, Kenny G and Maher debate the inherent nature of kids. Kenny G passionately argues that his kids were never cruel or feral, attributing it to his relaxed and informative parenting style. Finally, they steer the conversation towards money and define it as another form of freedom. Kenny G astounds Maher by expressing his love for fireproof files and organizing, likening it to his sports car, showcasing his unique charms. Both reflect on their journeys and how they've managed their finances, emphasizing the freedom and choices money offers without giving into frivolous luxury. The conversation takes a slight turn as Kenny G and Maher start discussing the persuasions between money and happiness. Kenny G expresses his past attitude of always striving to make more money and questions that mindset. Maher presents the notion of time versus money. Both recognize the importance of doing tasks that bring happiness, especially past a certain stage in life where time seems more precious. Maher shares his experiences rejecting certain high-paying corporate gigs that he does not enjoy. He identifies saying no as a potent tool in business. They carry forward this lively engagement with a shared sentiment of not wanting to retire, acknowledging how blessed they are to love their jobs. Discussing different career ventures, Maher jests about investing in raccoon dogs, while Kenny G humorously considers joining OnlyFans if all else fails. Kenny G then proceeds to tell a riveting narrative about his experience at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, China. He describes creating a beautiful anthem for the event, which eventually got lost in transit. Kenny G was invited to perform at this global affair, But in a drastic turn, he was asked to just wave instead. Walking up the stage, he ran into Jackie Chan, who invited him to his cigar bar. Describing it as a surreal experience, Kenny G performed his song Going Home for Jackie Chan, leading to an emotional moment. As the conversation proceeds, Maher shares his experiences in Amsterdam, highlighting the different reactions of its citizens towards American celebrities. According to him, pop stars receive much more enthusiasm compared to other artists. They acknowledge the universal appeal of music, expressing that it resonates with people emotionally, regardless of their cognition. The podcast episode portrays the multifaceted perspectives of the guests, offering insights and backstage stories from their careers in lighthearted jesting and serious discussions. Kenny shares his appreciation for the old-school jazz players, such as Stan Getz, and the melody-focused style they have championed. The hosts humorously discuss how the influential role Getz played during the cool jazz era, given his racial identity during a time when there was significant differed recognition between black and white musicians. Kenny further reveals how he had even opened for cool jazz icon Miles Davis, an experience that proved exciting yet also somewhat awkward. He cherishes the fact that Davis appreciated his work despite some jazz critics' strong disagreements. While discussing potential commercial presumptions in art forms like music, the host recalls several anecdotes and experiences with legendary music executive Clive Davis. Kenny narrates how Davis would stress the need for more vocals and lyrical nuances. However, Kenny maintained his instrumental essence, often against Davis's commercial insight. Despite this occasional push and pull, both hosts express a deep respect and admiration for Davis, who remains supportive of their artistic decisions. Their conversation veers into reminiscing about their mutual association with Johnny Carson, which they both regard as an instrumental stepping stone in their career paths. It emerges that both had guest appearances on Carson's show multiple times during the 80s, marking significant leaps in their respective careers. The hosts then segue into a playful banter about how meticulous they are when it comes to their work, admitting to deriving pleasure from putting things in order and organizing aspects of their lives. They even humorously proposed starting a barter system where Kenny would organize Maher's closet in return for the latter installing his toilet. Towards the end of the segment, Bill expresses gratitude for Kenny's participation and praises him as a fan. They collectively reflect on the fact that though their work may not please everyone, they appreciate those who genuinely enjoy and value what they do. In a heartfelt moment, Kenny promises to leave Maher a little note hidden somewhere during their next joint gig, seeming a symbolic gesture of their camaraderie and mutual respect. The enjoyable session ends with both expressing a desire to meet again, hinting at the potential of even more intersections in their respective paths ahead. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.